Yesterday, I said things don't get better than this. Well, today, they did. As the boats poured out of the Medina for the start of racing, the sun was bright in a cloudless sky, and a warm 8 to 10 knot east to southeasterly was to provide perfect conditions for a great day of racing on the second day of Skandia Cowes week. A strong flood tide was the only thing that could cause problems for the unwary. The dayboat classes, like the SP3s, which were first away on the inshore line, were well behaved today, but the problems were to come from the black group fleet starting on the outer line. While classes 1 to 4 were waiting for enough wind for a committee boat start in the western Solent, first away on the squadron outer line was Class 5. They were overeager in the strong flood tide, and the race officers had no choice but to signal a general recall. Their second attempt to the start saw carnage at Alpha Boy, as boats were swept east by the tide while attempting to barge in at the mark. We saw a lot of this today, and someone needs to tell these helmsmen that you can't claim water at a starting mark. On the inner line, the Etchells were well behaved, which is more than can be said for some of the black group yachts, who were waiting for their start. They were in the way at Alpha Boy and messed up an otherwise good start by the Etchells, which had chosen the outer end. The next class to start on the outer line were the J109s. Like many of the black group fleets, they were sent on a 20-mile course, which took them east as far as the Bob Kemp Boy and Royal Albert before zigzagging downwind across the eastern Solent. Many of Class 6 decided to get intimate with Alpha Boy. Alpha was certainly taking a battering this morning, and more was to come as it faced its biggest threat from the Red Funnel Ferry, which decided it too wanted to join in the fun. Somehow, with thrusters going at full chat, it scraped around the buoy without snagging it. Definitely the tightest rounding of the week so far. The black group classes were to enjoy their long beat east with the tide, which increased the apparent wind to provide fully powered up conditions in a nearly flat sea, or as flat as the Solent ever gets with 1,000 boats racing, and the usual amount of cruising sailboats and power boats. The boats made a fine sight as they beat eastwards in the warm sunshine that we seem to have been waiting for all summer. After rounding the Bob Kemp mark in the eastern Solent, classes 5, 6 and J-Sprit all reached across the Solent to Royal Albert on the north shore. Here they made a great sight as they jibed around the mark and set spinnakers for a long reach against the tide to Mother Bank, before another reach across the tide to Burgess Salmon. Again, there was plenty of action at the mark as the boats approached alongside each other and had to judge the tide and the room they had to give to the boats inside them. Many were well behaved and strictly observing the rules, while others were not quite in control, and voices were raised with calls for water and room at the mark. The wind stayed firmly in the east or southeast and didn't shift around to the south as early as predicted, so the fleets didn't suffer a drop in the wind, which allowed them to get around their courses in good time. Others decided that it was fun to luff on the reach and take one competitor off the course while the rest of the fleet sailed away laughing. The white group fleets finished on the barge finish line off a Shrake, and they all approached the line from the east under spinnaker. Yesterday, the Daring class winner was Dauntless with a 5-minute margin. Today they made it 2 in a row, this time by about 2.5 minutes. Second was number 29, Defender, with number 2, Medina, taking third, just 11 seconds astern. The black group classes had the pleasure of finishing on the squadron line, in front of the shoreside crowds, and they made a great sight as they ran towards the line under spinnaker. Leading Class 5 to the squadron line was Alvine Jacobite, which also won on handicap by over a minute. Extreme took the second gun, half a minute ahead of Vortex, but these two dropped to 7th and 8th on handicap, while Tontin and Steady Barker took 2nd and 3rd on corrected time. Whatever their finishing positions, Sunday will be a day most crews remember for a perfect day on the water.